Okay, let's get this started. We are doing a weekend market update. Apologize for no video last weekend. I was traveling and a bit tied up, but let's jump in it. So today we're going to do a little bit of a broader video. So I'm going to do one video for both the YouTube and Twitter. We'll do Bitcoin, high time frame, and then some low time frame viewpoints. We're going to do the Bitcoin miners using Mara as my proxy. We're going to look at MicroStrategy denominated in Bitcoin. We're going to look at the Nasdaq, and we're going to look at the Nasdaq versus the VIX. We're going to look at gold. We're going to look at the dollar, and I think that's going to wrap it up. So let's get right into it. So I've got my high time frame Elliott wave count on a daily chart, and again, not much has really changed in the spirit of what Bitcoin does, folks. 99% of the gains with Bitcoin come in less than 2% of the time. And so you get major moves that happen in shorter amounts of time, and that's just markup, right? And as we're in this expansive phase of the market, we got a taste of that the last couple months on a few days, and much like Bitcoin's character, it is simply just consolidating, having the market rid itself of folks that might have been short-term speculators, and other cohorts that have not been participants come back in to buy those coins, also known as reaccumulation. Reaccumulation in the context of an expansive market phase, which I believe we're in. And just a reminder, I'm not a financial advisor. Don't take any of this as financial advice. Nobody knows what's going to happen next. I just have my strong convictions, so just use this as educational purposes only and do your own research. All right, so when I look at the macro count, I'm going to zoom in here. So you all have seen me present this chart for a while, those that have been following me. And I've been presenting this since, well, I've been doing these videos since the summer, specifically when we were in this region, right? And I'd noted why we needed to be the most bullish in that region, given those of you that followed my Wyckoff massive accumulation claim, right? This entire move being just an accumulation with a spring, and then we break out of the accumulation, which I claim we did back in March 2023, and simply sign of strength consolidating over this accumulation range. The closer you get to this line, that accumulation breakout, the more bullish we needed to be. And it paid off. It paid off being bullish at that point. So now here we are consolidating above another key area, and that's this green rectangle. That's the previous all-time high base, simply consolidating for a month. And you could view that as, again, a sign of strength. That's a sign of strength. Same concept, folks, right? This square, sign of strength, sign of strength. And so when I zoom in, let's zoom in, right? And we're all trying to speculate on when this is going to end. Should this resolve to the upside? When is that going to happen? And, you know, my interpretation is we've got some type of triangle consolidation in a subwave 3-4, working on 5 of 5. And so in this type of triangle consolidation, I've got A here, B, C, D, E, and theoretically, if this is the appropriate viewpoint, then expansion should come out of this. Now, alternatively, I could have this count labeled incorrectly, where the A, so A is here, B, C, D, and E, you got maybe one more. one more dive down to the 65, 66 range prior to coming up. And also you've got the possibility, I know everyone's looking at these triangles where it makes a complex type of correction, but then you just get a nasty stop run, clear out all those lows before it makes its move. That's my least likely probability. My highest likely probability move is the one that I've illustrated here. And so I do see a lot of folks having, I see the predominant triangle being the A, B, C, D, and we got one more E before. My view is this move was, if I've got this as a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, coming out of this 2, I've got a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 move here. Okay. Kind of a truncated 4, 5. And then that steep sell-off was the A. And so why is that? Because this move here just doesn't look impulsive to me, right? On a daily time frame, you just get a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, just kind of, a 1 week of just a slow grind up isn't that impulsive, or a fifth, but then again, it most certainly could be. And so I just have that grind up as a corrective B, but again, I could be wrong. So either way, the end game is the same in my opinion, where the resolution of such a massive consolidation, again, think of things like springs, right? Springs get unleashed, and I expect us to get to the 140 to 165 range very quickly in a matter of weeks. That's the way that these things tend to resolve when they do. Not a lot of time for folks to get positioned. So we will keep an eye on that. Now let's kind of mess around with the short-term time frames. This is a 4-hour. This is one I've been posting as well, starting last week. Just kind of looking at, as I'm claiming, remember we're in that little reaccumulation range, that sign of strength on top of all-time high. And if we zoom in and look at this structure on a 4-hour, does it resemble anything that we were familiar with? If we've been following me, you know how much I value and look for Wyckoff accumulations, reaccumulations. I'll be starting to look at distributions later on in the year, I'm sure, to find clues for potential market tops, or at least in Bitcoin. I think that the traditional financial markets can go on a bit longer. But anyway, I digress. And so when I look at this structure on a 4-hour, I see a lot of similarities to the reaccumulation, very common reaccumulation schematic, okay, where we've got the price moving into preliminary supply, and then you get a little bit of consolidation, and then you get a buying climax, okay? And that buying climax, that's the 5, the subwave 5 that I labeled on the last chart. That's impulsive to me, right? That's an impulsive move, which is why I've got the count labeled that I do, and this move being corrective, okay? That being the corrective move. And so again, I could be wrong, but this is the lens at which I formulate these counts, not just by what I want to happen, but what I think is going on based on the character of the price action. And again, this is very much indicative of an impulsive buying climax, which is what you see up here, BCLX. And so after that, you had an automatic reaction down to this preliminary supply area, and then a secondary test that extended well above the buying climax, okay? And things don't always have to follow tit for tat when it comes to these formations. The point is, you get some type of reaction, some type of secondary test at range highs, or you form a new range high. And depending on what type of leverage is in the system, right? If there wasn't as much leverage in the system, maybe this just came to here, okay? But with Bitcoin, we got a lot of degens that like to mount up when they taste breakouts, and this was again, a potential breakout scenario where a lot of people, I'm sure, longed. And so anyway, you got a secondary test, and then we come back into this range, back to support, right? Listed as support up here. And some consolidation, then a move back up towards resistance, which is what we see up here. And then we just kind of had this slow dribble in a decline, which is known as a creek region in this image. And then the phase which we're most interested in is where reaccumulation potentially is ending, which is, I think, is what's going on right now, where you make a jump across this creek and kind of get up into this resistance area, which is what you see in this portion of the image here. We've got the resistance, we've got resistance here, and we're kind of consolidating in it, maybe one more consolidation up and out, and then it's gone. And so that's how I'm tracking the short-term price action, and until proven otherwise, this is where I believe we are. Now let's go to the Bitcoin miners, because the Bitcoin miners I know have been very frustrating. Just like my computer, when it doesn't load the image, the chart that I'd saved, right? But actually more frustrating than that, because I can fix that quickly. I can't fix the Bitcoin miners. The market fixes the Bitcoin miners. And so let's go to Mara. Let's go to a weekly chart, and I posted this one yesterday. This is I really wish I'd posted this earlier, this viewpoint, because as much as I love Wyckoff, I think we need to just take a step back and visualize what's going on through the lens of Wyckoff, and I think that'll make a lot more sense. Okay, if we think back to what Bitcoin was doing over the summer, I kept claiming, we need to be the most bullish as it gets closer to 25K, as it gets closer to its accumulation base that it broke out of. And let me just remind you, remember that square I drew for Bitcoin? Okay, that's this. Remember that spring I just showed you for Bitcoin? That's this. Remember that SOS consolidation? That's this. Okay, that's where we are now here with Mara and a lot of the Bitcoin miners. And so if we look at, we've got this spring, right where you'd see a spring. You've got a test, that strong reaction of the spring, then you get a reclaim inside of a very important bottom end of the range, which is what we have here at the region of the test. And then you get a move out, and then you get one last check back to last point of support. And the last point of support in this chart is all this price action down here. That's what an LPS is, last point, check back to the last point of support. And then after the LPS region, you start making your move, and it made its move. And it's funny because that move in December, that was a massive move, but it needed to be a massive move in the context of what we're visualizing here in early stage expansion. So what was technically going on here was a breakout of a 2-year accumulation. And so look at the power coming out of there. But it didn't break out all the way. It simply got into a sign of strength area. It backed up to the last point of support. Now, the last point of support on this chart at this moment is that whole area. Okay, so that's the LPS at that region, but just continued to be in a sign of strength, backing up, and all we've been doing is coiling for literally almost 4 months now. Okay, 4 months in a sign of strength region, prior to what I believe is the real move. And why the miners haven't moved yet, kind of explosively, let's put it that way, is because of where we are in the structure. And once we, if then, right? Once, if, and when we break out of this. So for tomorrow would be like a weekly close above 28. And I think it'll be more decisive than that, right? I think once the market enters expansion with the Bitcoin miners, it goes to 28, probably goes to 40 that same week, if not the following week. But then within a few weeks, maybe a month, maybe 2 months, but in a very short order, we get this type of movement. Okay, we get this type of movement where, you know, the pennant target here, the breakout of just this pennant target takes you to 87. The breakout of this big inverse head and shoulders, right? So breakout takes you to 112 potentially. And so I expect those moves, which I've been saying are coming, or they're coming, they're coming, right? But they haven't come yet. They came with MicroStrategy. They came, half of the move came with Bitcoin. And so the miners, in my opinion, are just lagging. And I know we want all these things to happen at the same time, but that's not the way the markets work. Okay, that's not the way the markets work. Last two things I have in this chart are worth pointing out. This is volume by price. Okay, and that's established at this pivot starting at the wave 2 bottom in October. So since October, where has the most volume traded? And this is really interesting. In Mara, it's traded at 23.71. That's amazing, isn't it? That's amazing. Since the lows. So low volume all the way up. The volume came in here, and there's been consistent volume at this price, at the most volume at that price level. And so when we look at the volume shelf, we're literally sitting on one right now, okay, which corresponds to the accumulation breakout level that goes all the way back to 2021, really, in terms of a level of importance. And so another key level to get over, I'd love for us to get over it this week, reclaim this point of control at 23.24. And again, so those are the two numbers I'm going to be looking for here. And this bodes well for all the miners, right? We're all on the same team here. I know there's a lot of miner, like, you're better, my miner is better than your miner, and yours is worse than mine. But we want them all to do well, because a rising tide is going to lift all boats. Mara, I just happen to is the largest market cap, and that's why it gets most of my attention. And so Mara, if Mara does well, they all do well, folks. Next, MicroStrategy Bitcoin. It's going to do the same thing again, isn't it? Yeah. One of these days I'll figure out how to avoid doing that. But until that day, we just move on. All right. Next, I want to go to MicroStrategy Bitcoin. Okay, MicroStrategy Bitcoin, and I'm going to throw this up in line chart, because I don't want I've been posting MicroStrategy, folks, for those of you that are new, since it was 190. Okay, with the targets that it's hitting right now in mind. Now, I'm not a financial advisor, so this isn't like, my posts aren't should not be construed as like, hey, buy MicroStrategy here, I see it doubling, or do this or do that, or trade this or trade that. Here's what's of importance. This is MicroStrategy denominated in Bitcoin, and I also presented this a lot. Okay, so when we were down in this area in January, this is where I said, I'm personally interested in selling Bitcoin from MicroStrategy. Okay, anywhere down in these areas, you're getting extreme value. Now, this goes all the way back to previous all-time high, and as previous all-time high since they started purchasing Bitcoin back in August of 2020. So we breached that. We also kind of hit the top end of this channel, We found some resistance here. Is it going to come back down here? I don't know. Could it come back down there? Certainly could, which just means that even if Bitcoin, let's say Bitcoin goes up, MicroStrategy may not go up with the same percentage. Okay, so let's say Bitcoin 3x's. MicroStrategy could keep going up, but maybe just 2x's, and that's what that move might look like. Or, I'm not, it's something like this. I don't know. It also could, do a little reclaim here, and then, forget my channel, and now MicroStrategy is on its own path long term of outperformance against Bitcoin. I don't know. But all I'm saying is right now, this is something to be hyper aware of where we are in relation to its valuation to Bitcoin. Is it historic highs? This is the mean, okay, this line. So we're well above a couple standard deviations over that mean. Sorry, that looks awful. There's too much shit there. But you get my gist. So I just felt that was important to share for what that's worth. Next, let's go to the Nasdaq. And again, I know we all want, we're all cautious, and the market needs to correct at some point. This has been up only, it's been up only, but folks, we're in a trend here. We're in a trend. The trend has been a very clear uptrend. I've got a weekly chart of the Nasdaq. I have a 9-week simple moving average up. Why do I have the 9-week simple moving average up? Because it has told us since April of 2020 when there is a potential for a short-term correction and where we should recalibrate expectations. Okay, where did it do that first? It did that back in September of 2020. The Nasdaq broke the 9-week, and you had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 weeks of essential price consolidation. Okay, it did it again in February 2021, and you had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So many months of consolidated price action. And where did these things happen? They happened in my counts, right? They happened in my counts in this 3-4 correction, this larger scale 3-4 correction, as well as on the way to this primary wave 5. You had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks before it, 6 weeks before it broke previous all-time high. And then finally, and this is where it starts to look just distributive here, right? And when I talk about, when you hear me say I'm going to start to look for distributive patterns at some point, because I don't think, we can't look at this through the lens of this goes on forever, right? This incredible uptrend certainly could, but when you start flirting with this 9-week SMA, right, and you just keep negotiating with it, versus where we are right now, versus maybe a negotiation here, and then boom, maybe one negotiation here, and then you're just riding it. Like, that's a strong uptrend. When you start getting multiple failures and they're closer and closer in time, it tells me you're getting closer and closer to the end of potentially a local impulse. Okay, as illustrated nicely here. We don't have any of that here. Okay, I don't have that here. I've got one here. We had one back here, but it reclaimed it the next week. That was early on in this expansive move. It's a character of what you'd expect to see early on, early end expansion. And so where we are right now, this week, we had a test of that region. It reclaimed it very, very quickly. It reclaimed it in one day. It reclaimed it on a Friday. So I'm still looking for the markets to continue marginally higher. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised to see a quick move into this 3 prior to any type of correction, maybe in the summer. I don't know how deep it goes. That's just up there for a placeholder. But for now, this is the way I'm viewing this. And what else gives me this idea that we're on the verge of potentially some significant markup, a mini melt up, if you will, into that 3? Well, what's going on with the VIX? What's going on with the VIX? And I've got Nasdaq. Let me just set the stage for what I'm looking at up here. This is Nasdaq, okay, and this is VIX. All right. Nasdaq or the VIX has been in a clear downtrend, right? Clear downtrend since May of 2022. And what's a downtrend? You've got a series of lower lows, lower highs, lower lows, lower highs, lower lows, lower highs, lower lows. And, you know, this potentially is a lower high, but it could come all the way up to there. And follow the trend, okay? Or it could break out of this, right? I don't know. But for now, the character of this is a downtrend. There has been no change in character in this trend at all. And what has happened the last 1, 2, 3 times, we went from the range low to the range high in the lower low, lower high formation. Well, Nasdaq dropped 20% in August 2022 to October of 2022. Lower low, lower high. What did the Nasdaq do? It dropped 5%, 5.82%. What did it do the next time? It dropped 10%. What did it do this last time? Lower low, process of maybe making a higher high. But either way, folks, what's this trend? Whether it makes a lower high, whether it stops here or not, the market's been up 11.62%. 11.62%. That's telling us something. That's telling us something, I think, that, again, most aren't considering, in that I hear most considering a correction is due. We've been up only. I don't hear a lot of potential major markup being next. And when I look at this, it tells me that's a distinct possibility. What happens if VIX travels back down to the bottom end of this range, the lower low? We've already been up over 11%. What do the markets do in that scenario? So some food for thought there. Very interesting. One of my favorite charts actually recently is the one I just shared with you right there. Gold for the YouTubers. You've seen me post this a lot, not as much recently, but a lot in the summer, and it's finally kind of coming to its own fruition. And what is that? Well, let me just hide that. I've been contending gold has just been in a massive accumulation type of structure. And we were literally since October just in this sign of strength, okay? SOS, back up to last point of support. What's the last point of support in this chart? It's that green rectangle. What's this C here? I contended that was a spring. And so what's gold doing now? Well, gold is doing what you'd expect to see after it consolidates in its sign of strength area and leaves the range. Expansion. And that's what we've got. We've got early stage expansion. And so where does it go from here? It goes up. Does it go straight up? I don't know. Does it stop this week and consolidate? Maybe. But for now, the count to me kind of looks like a 1, 2, maybe working on a 3. So this 3 could go much higher. You could be working on like a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I mean, there's many possibilities and variations. I don't follow gold closely enough to be able to speculate on timing. But this is early stage expansive price action in gold. And when I zoom out, let me get rid of that for a second. When I zoom out on what gold's doing, I mean, there's just a lot of possibilities here, right? This could be an early stage impulse 1, 2, 3, 4. And so I wouldn't be surprised to see $3,000 gold as its next move before any real consolidation. So That's gold. Great example of Wyckoff in action. Next is Tesla. Tesla is one of those, like, this is one of those potential, like going back to some of the Bitcoin stuff I was doing this summer and last year with some real asymmetry. And my macro count on this is we've got the primary 3-4, and we made a 1-2 coming out of it. And I think we're setting up here for completion of this 2. Whether it's complete already or not, I don't know. I don't know. What confirmation would look like for me would be, you know, this area here needs to be reclaimed, that 186 on a weekly. So I'd like to see nice, just a capitulation candle, and then you just see it, go. But you may not get that, right? I mean, everyone wants a great entry in Tesla. So I don't know if you're going to get it or not. I don't think it matters. I think this is just I think this is deep value accumulation region. Whether it gets down to 140, this 140 range or not remains to be seen, but that again wouldn't surprise me. And then we've got a potential major move coming out of it. So very interesting indeed. Last but not least is the dollar. And I know that the dollar has been a bit perplexing, but let's look at it a little differently, folks. Let's look at the dollar a little bit differently. So, all right. So why do I think the move in the dollar is near exhaustion and our next move is down? And why do I think this is a redistribution? Let's start there. Let's start there, because that's my claim, is we've got a redistribution going on. And the reason I think that is because of where we came from. That's a parabola. That's a parabola. And generally speaking, you don't come out of parabolic structures, consolidate, and then go into another parabola or uptrend. That's just contra the nature of parabolas. It doesn't mean it can't happen. And it doesn't mean that I'm right here with my assessment. The market will decide, and time will tell us. Time will tell us who's right or wrong. What this means is that that's the lens at which I'm looking at this movement from. I'm looking at this movement through the lens of this is a move down to preliminary supply. You get a selling climax, and then you get an automatic reaction, and you get a move down to the range low. That's a sign of weakness. Then you get a secondary test into this supply region. Okay, then you get another sign of weakness that undercuts the lows, where it has the market kind of thinking it's over, but nope, you get an upthrust. And this upthrust occurred and breaks range highs, so it gets everyone thinking, oh, nope, we're back on. And that's why these redistributions are really hard to kind of calibrate what you're in. And so after that upthrust, what would you expect to see? A sharp movement, check back into the last point of supply, sign of weakness. Ideally, you want to see the sign of weakness, and then it marks down. But in this case, and again, like I said before, you don't always get one-to-one movements with these beautiful little schematics, right? The point is, this green rectangle, this is the last point of supply, okay? That goes all the way back, all the way back, all the way back, all the way back. And so we've gotten one check back to last point of supply. We got another check back to last point of supply. And remember, I said, to start the week, we got this breakout of this downtrend, and so everyone's thinking breakout. And so far, no decision has been made here. We've got an unconfirmed breakout. We're kind of back in under this trend line. We're in this cloud. If I throw the Bollinger Bands up, let's see what we've got. Yeah, we've got a tick to the top end of the Bollinger Band and a rejection to the T. I don't know if you can see that here, but throw up a Bollinger Band on that weekly, and you'll see that's exactly where the movement stopped. And so that kind of corresponds with, again, fake breakout, stopping at the bands, and resumption of the trend down, in my opinion. We'll see. But folks, that's it. That was a long video. I thought I was going to make a shorter one, but there was just a lot to talk about. I haven't talked to you folks in a while, and I missed you. All right, I missed you. So have a great rest of the week. Enjoy. This will be the only video. I'm going to throw this up, like I said, on the YouTubes and the X. Have a great rest of your day. Thanks.